So yesterday a listener pointed out a subject matter that I need to discuss. I had done it years ago, but unfortunately I had misrepresentation of names in that video, so I had to take it down, and I never put up another video. So today I'm going to address this subject. Why don't I ask for donations, as they say? Well, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the deliberate misinterpretations by preachers who will twist the scriptures thinking they can con you, thinking that they can extort you out of your money. And somehow that is okay. Using, as they say, the scripture to extort money from the public? Maybe I could have initially addressed this differently, but quite frankly, I don't know how else to address this. So what we're going to do is, I thought I was going to go to 1 Corinthians 9 first, but no, what I want to do is go to 2 Peter 3. What happened? I lost it. It's in here. There it is right there. Of course it's right here. Verse 14, wherefore, beloved, await and expect these things. Be diligent that you may be found of him in peace, without spot and blameless. And suppose that the long suffering of our master, Yehoshua's, salvation, even as our beloved brother Paul, just like him, also according to the wisdom given unto him, has also written unto you. Yeah, in the book of Hebrews, Paul wrote to these people, because you see, Peter was an apostle to the Hebrews, not an apostle to the Gentiles. Okay? As also in all his epistles, speaking in them these things, these very things that Peter was talking about in this entire chapter. Okay? He's saying that Paul spoke of those very things that he just spoke of. And I touched on that subject yesterday. Right? In which are some things or something hard to understand. And that's where the preachers love to stop right there, because they love to twist words. No, they're not hard to understand. Why is Paul saying that some of the words of Paul, why is Peter saying some of the words of Paul are hard to understand? He's not saying that. If you would just continue to read, you'll realize that's not what he's saying. Hard to understand by those who are unlearned and unstable. Oh! Why? Why is it hard for those people to understand? Those who twist the English word translated from Greek, and of course you'd have to translate it from Hebrew to Greek, but strabul or strablu means to twist. They twist the words of Paul, just like they do all the other scriptures, and they do so to their own destruction. Now that we have context, now that we have the table set for the words of Paul, shall we now go and read the words of Paul and twist the words of Paul? When Peter said, if you do, you do so to your own destruction? Now let's go to 1 Corinthians. In what context is he starting this? Well, I guess in 1 Corinthians 9, but we'll start in verse 8. 1 Corinthians 8, I guess he starts this. In fact, let's see if we can. Okay, yeah, this starts off with the food sacrificed to idols, right? And then it begins in chapter 9, the rights of the apostles. Am I not an apostle? Why does he have to say this to the Corinthians? Because they disrespected him. They didn't consider him one. And the reason why they didn't consider him one is because of what's written in the latter part of this chapter. You'll see. Have I not seen, not Jesus Christ, have I not seen Yehoshua? That is his name. His name never changed. Just because you don't like his name, that does not give you the authority to change his name. Just because you don't like it, because you're an anti-Semite, you don't like his name. You need to think about that. Have I not seen face to face Yehoshua Moshiach, our master? Aren't you proof of my work in the master? If I am not an apostle unto others, yet doubtlessly I am to you, Corinthians, because you are the seal of my apostleship in the master. My answer to them who examine me. Oh, you see what I'm saying? Who examine him? They're trying to figure out whether he's an apostle or not. And the subject comes in. And modern day preachers, all of them, or nearly all of them, stumble at the words of Paul because they will not read this whole chapter through. My answer to them that examine me is this: don't we have the power to eat and to drink? Eat and to drink what? Let's keep listening. Let's keep listening to Paul. Let's not stop listening to Paul, because if we stop listening to Paul, we're going to find ourselves twisting his words. Don't we have the power to lead about a sister, a wife, as well as other apostles, and as brethren of the master, and Peter? Cephas is Peter. Rock. Or I only, as Barnabas? Don't we have the power to quit working? What do you mean to quit working? To quit making a living. Don't we have the power to quit making a living? Who goes to warfare at any time at his own expense? This is where you Christians, you preachers, where they stumble and fall. Right here. They fell victim to their own temptations, tripping over the words of Paul. And the reason why they did this is because of the practice of twisting the Scripture, as Peter said in 2 Peter 3. They made a practice out of it. And once you make a practice out of twisting the Scriptures, you will do all the Scriptures the same way, and you will do so to your own destruction. So, at this point right here, shall we stop, or shall we twist the words of Paul? And shall we twist the words? Let's just continue to read. Let's not twist the words of Paul. Who goes to war any time at his own expense? Who plants a vineyard and doesn't eat the fruit thereof? Or who feeds a flock and does not eat of the milk of the flock? See, that means I can take donations, tithes, or whatever, right? If you don't continue reading, you're not going to understand. You're going to fall prey to your own temptation because you twisted the words of Paul. Say I these things as a man? Is this my own interpretation, or is it not the Torah that says the same thing also? For it is written in the Torah of Moses, you shall not muzzle the ox that treads out the corn. Does Jehovah care about the ox? Or it also says, or says it he altogether for our sakes? For our sakes, no doubt. This is written, that he who plows should plow in hope, and that he that threshes should thresh in hope, should be partaker of his hope. See, Henry, you should be able to take donations, right? Do you want to fall victim to your own temptation, or do you want to continue to read the words of Paul and not twist his writings? Let's continue then, and let's not twist his words. For if we have sown unto you a spiritual thing, it is a great thing if we shall reap your carnal things. Or if others be partakers of this power over you, aren't we more so? That's what it says, aren't we more so? What is he talking about? If others have taken this power over you, he's talking about pastors and whatever, aren't we apostles even more entitled to your things? Well, this is so convincing, isn't it? Oh, the temptation is so great, isn't it? Why don't we just stop here? Let's not read the rest of it. Because you see, if we read the rest of it, we might get in trouble with our conscience. Or read the rest of it and find the truth. And find out why Paul refused to do so. Nevertheless, otherwise, on the flip side, on the flip side, so he's presenting two arguments. One is for the acceptance of donations, not working, and feeding off the flock. And the other argument, nevertheless, or the word Allah in Greek means otherwise, on the other hand. So he is presenting an argument of one side and the other. And you preachers, you did not notice this. You did not see this. And the reason why you did not see this argument, this debate that Paul was presenting to the Corinthians, was because you stopped right here at verse 12, and you assumed that he was giving you the right to take people's money. No, he wasn't. He was presenting an argument. And this, nevertheless, right here, trumps everything in the first argument. Okay. Nevertheless, we have not used this power. Why did Paul not use this power? But we suffer all things, lest we should hinder the gospel of Moshiach. Whoa. Those are some really heavy words. He presented the argument that the preachers of today will use. All with question marks, you see? All with aren't we? Then he answered it. And he says, nevertheless, we have not used this power, but we suffer all things lest we should hinder the gospel of Moshiach. What is the word? What is this word? Hinder. Interrupt. To cut it. To damage it. And now you see, folks, why the gospel has been damaged in Christianity. Why they'll never find the truth. Twisting the words of Paul, as Peter said in 1 Peter or 2 Peter 3. How strong are these words of Paul? How is it that these people who are unlearned and unstable twist the words of Paul? Why didn't they bother to read it through? And now you know the reason why Peter said, as our beloved brother Paul, according to the wisdom that was given unto him, has written unto you, just like all his epistles, all of them. That includes 1 Corinthians, the one that I was just reading from. Speaking of in them these things which are some things hard to be understood by those who are unlearned and unstable, because they twist his words just like they do all the other scriptures, and they do so to their own destruction. So all of these preachers who twisted the words of Paul in 1 Corinthians 9, they do so to their own destruction. Let's continue. He said, please don't ever let this leave your mind. He said to do so would be incising, damaging the gospel. You see. Don't you know that they which minister about the holy things? He's talking about the temple as it currently sat in Jerusalem. Who ministered to the temple in Jerusalem when Paul was still alive? It was the Levites. About the holy things of the temple, and they which wait at the altar, they partake of the altar. Even so has not the Lord, but Jehovah ordained, that they which preach the gospel shall live of the gospel. But wait. See, he's presenting the other argument again. But then he goes on the flip side again. But I have used none of these things, and neither have I written these things, that this should be happen to me. See, he's saying, well, the Levites, they partake of the altar. And some of your pastors do this, using the example of that which is in the temple. But he says, but I have used none of these things, neither have I written these things, that it should be done so unto me, because it would be better for me to die. I would rather be dead than that any man should make my boasting void. He didn't take money. He had his own occupation. Now, he used the term his own boasting. Well, in the English language, we have terms that are similar but use different words. I don't want to use this particular phrase in this chapter. But you have heard of the term political capital. You know what it means, political capital. It's kind of like, I will go look it up. All right, watch this. Is a metaphor used in the political theory of conceptualize the immaculation of resources and power built through relationships, trust, and goodwill. All right? So, in order to narrow the scope of the definition here, political capital is essentially trust that is built through relationships and goodwill. Trust and goodwill that is built through relationships. Okay. All right. So that's good enough. All right. So Paul did not want to abuse the goodwill. He did not want to damage the gospel by abusing the goodwill. Why? Well, if we bother to continue, we will find out why. Verse 15, but I have used none of these. Have you noticed that the preachers will never quote this? Have you noticed that? They will never quote this. Because they rejected it. They rejected it and grabbed on to the carnal part. Neither have I written these things that it should so be done to me, because I would rather die than for any man to make my glorying void. What glorying? Let's continue. If I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory, to boast. For necessity is laid upon me. But woe unto me if I don't preach the gospel. So preaching the gospel causes necessity. But he's saying he's not going to use any of those things because of his necessity. He's not going to use your donations because of his necessity. But he says, but woe unto me if I don't preach the gospel, because if I do this willingly, without a reward from, PayPal, whatever it is that these preachers take nowadays, I have a reward. Okay? Now, if against my will, unwillingly, a dispensation, a stewardship of the gospel is entrusted, what is my reward then, seeing that he is not taking a reward, donations, or whatever it is? Preachers love to even use the term tithe, which is, might be a different video, I'm not sure. But I just want to talk about taking money donations today. What is my reward then? The answer, in order, when I preach the gospel, I make the gospel of Moshiach without charge, so that I abuse not my power in the gospel. Okay? You want to know what the answer is? The answer is in verse 23. And I fear to, I will go to 19 through 22, but I'm going to go straight to 23 because it continues the narrative here, or the thought process here. So, what is his power? I mean, what is his reward? Since he makes the gospel of Moshiach without expense, without charge, so that he does not abuse his power in the gospel, then what is his reward? His reward is this: and this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might be a partaker thereof with you, partaker of the kingdom with you. That's the reason. Now, we'll go ahead and read this 19 through 22. For though I be free from all men, yet I have made myself a servant unto all. When he became an apostle, someone who preaches the gospel, he became a servant unto all. That means to both, because since he's an apostle to the Gentiles, he became a servant to all men, that would be the Gentiles and the Jews, so that I might gain more excellence. To the Jews I became a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. In other words, bring in some Jews to the gospel. Those that are under the Torah as under the Torah, that I might gain them that are under the Torah. And to them that are not under the Torah. You see, like the Romans, like the Corinthians, being not lawless to Elohim, but under the Torah to Moshiach, that I might gain them that are outside the Torah. To the weak I became as weak, that I might gain the weak, that I might gain all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. So he's talking about those that are weak. He was weak so that he could help save the weak. And I do this for the sake of the gospel, that I might be partaker thereof with you. So, to take money, as we just, in a summary, to take money for the gospel's sake damages the gospel. And he will not do that. He would rather be dead than to do that. He says he does this for the gospel's sake, so that he might be a partaker with you, those who enter the kingdom. Now, there's nothing more that needs to be said here. I mean, there's no need to go to where it says they tithe of the mint and the anise, and this you should have done, but not leave the other undone. He's speaking of those that were under the Torah. If you Gentiles are no longer under the Torah, then why in the world are you demanding tithes? You see what you've done? You see what you've done to the scriptures? You see what you've done to the words of Paul. You twisted it to your own destruction, because your love of money caused you to do it. Your love of money caused you to refuse to continue to read where it says, where Paul said, on the flip side, we have not used this power, but we suffer all things, lest we should hinder, to cut, to break the gospel of Moshiach, to break it. Broken? Do we want the gospel to be broken? Well, it is broken today. It is completely broken because this is exactly what the preachers have done, and now the people don't even know what the gospel is. In fact, they reject the gospel. They have turned to another gospel. May have to go to another. I don't know if that's written that way or not. I'll find out. Looky here. It's in two places. 2 Corinthians 11, verse 4. For if somebody else comes preaching another Messiah, which we have not preached, and this is what the Christians have done, or if you receive another spirit, which you have not received, or another gospel which you have not accepted, you might bear well with them. Well, he already knew. He already knew what was going to happen to the churches. What do you mean another gospel? I dare you to go look up the definition of the gospel. These preachers do not know what it is. The gospel is good tidings. And if you want to know what the good tidings are, you have to go to the prophets. I always say this. You must go to the prophets. Okay. Isaiah. Which one should I read from? Oh, let's try Isaiah 35. There's so many. The gospel is not hidden. The gospel is glad tidings. And so when you want to find the gospel in the prophets, you have to type in glad tidings. But you don't know that because the preachers have broken the gospel. Now it says right here, glory for Zion. And it shows Matthew 9 verse 32 and Mark 7 verse 31. You see? Okay, not in Jesus. Yehoshua. He never changed his name. Just because you don't like his name, just because you are an anti-Semite and hate Hebrew names, that never changed his name. When in all the cities and villages of what? Of Israel, and teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom. Of what kingdom? And healing every sickness and every disease among the people. And when he saw the multitudes, he was moved in compassion upon them because they fainted and were scattered abroad. I mean, scattered into all the nations as sheep having no shepherd. Then he said unto his disciples, the harvest truly is plenty, but the laborers are few. Pray therefore, Jehovah of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers to his harvest. Okay, so we'll go back. This is the gospel. The wilderness and the solitary place shall be glad for them, and the desert will rejoice and blossom as a rose. For who? We'll find out. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon will be given to it. Oh, Lebanon is going to be added to the kingdom, to the land of Eretz Israel. The excellency of Carmel and Sharon, and they shall see the glory of Jehovah, not the Lord. It's Jehovah. You see that? Jehovah. They will all see the glory of Jehovah and the excellency of Elohim. Strengthen you the weak hands and confirm the feeble knees. Say to them that are fearful of heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, Elohim will come with vengeance. Against who? Against those who mistreated the Jews. With a recompense, and he will come and save you. Who? Zion. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened. Let's go then to the words of Paul that I love so much, that the Gentiles hate so much. We'll go to Romans 11. Huh? He's going to open the eyes of the blind. Who are the blind? Let me show you who the blind are. Verse 25, for I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part has happened to Israel. He's going to open the eyes of the blind Jews, Israelis. And the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped, and then the lame man shall leap as a hart, and the tongue of the dumb shall sing. For in the wilderness waters will break out, and streams in the desert. And the parched ground shall become a pool, and a thirsty land spring. This is the gospel. With reeds and rushes, and a highway shall be there. A way it shall be called the way of holiness. And the unclean shall not pass over, but it shall be for the wayfaring men. Even the unintelligent will not get lost. No lion shall be there, nor any ravenous beast shall come upon it, shall not be found there, but the redeemed. Who are the redeemed? I'll show you who the redeemed are. Verse 26 of Romans 11, the words of Paul that the Gentiles hate, and so all Israel, what is that word? Every, the whole, all of them shall be saved. It is not up to you to say, to judge one, condemn one, and exalt another. That's not my place. It's not your place either. So stop saying, well, that's not true. All Israel shall not be saved. Stop saying that. That is not for you and me. Jehovah is the judge. I just want to be one of them that saves. So all Israel shall be saved, because it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away impiety, unholiness from Jacob, because this is my covenant. What covenant? The new covenant that's written in Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34. That covenant. Unto them when I shall take away their sins. Concerning the gospel, they might be enemies for your sakes, because in the gospel it says he will be that the Messiah will be a light to the Gentiles, and in those days the Jews did not accept that part. But concerning the election, they, the Israelites, are the beloved for the patriarchs' sakes. For Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's sakes, because the gifts and calling of Jehovah cannot be changed. Let's continue to read Isaiah 35. The redeemed shall walk there. The ransomed of Jehovah shall return and come to Zion with songs and everlasting joy upon their heads, and they shall obtain joy, gladness, sorrow, and sighing shall flee away from them. All right. So, this is in context with Jehovah's vengeance upon the Gentiles, as you see here. It's going to happen. And then he's going to save Israel. Now, what did I just do? Here we go. All right. And it is in many chapters. Many, many chapters. The gospel is in many chapters in the prophets. I'm going to continue until I find out who the redeemed are. All right. Awake, awake, put on your strength. Zion, put on your beautiful garments. Jerusalem, the holy city, for henceforth you shall know, there shall no more come unto you the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake yourself from the dust. Arise and sit down, Jerusalem. Loose yourself from the bands of your neck. Who has the bands around Jerusalem's neck today? The Christians and the Muslims. Who is it that claims that Jerusalem is supposed to be a city for all religions and do not allow the Jews to worship at the Temple Mount? It is the ones who have bands around Jerusalem's neck. O captive daughter of Zion, for Jehovah says this, you were sold out of favor, and you shall be redeemed. It says, it doesn't say without money, it says money. Now, it appears to say without money. For thus saith Adonai Jehovah, my people. Oh, now we're going to start finding out who the redeemed are. You see, I'm not going to let this slide. This is the gospel, folks. My people went down before into Egypt to sojourn there, and then the Assyrian oppressed them without cause. Now therefore, says Jehovah, my people are taken away for nothing, or out of favor. Might mean with disfavor. And those that have dominion over them, make them howl. Who rules over the people of Israel? It's the Gentiles, says Jehovah, and my name continually every day is blasphemed. I showed you how his name is blasphemed. Yesterday I did. By the Gentiles. Therefore my people shall know my name. His name is Jehovah Elohim. That very name that the Catholics despised and blasphemed. I showed it to you. Do I have to do it again? Do I have to show you again how the Catholics and the Lutherans despise and blaspheme his name? Do I have to do it over and over again for your sakes? The way to find it, if you want to know how his name is blasphemed among the Gentiles, the way to do it is type in Judensau. And you will find it. It's right here. And it's, on this blasphemous graven image, where the Christians had a graven image of Jews sucking from the tits of the swine, of the sow, with the rabbi lifting its tail looking for the Talmud, they bastardized the explicit name of Jehovah. Why? How do they do this? Because they have Shem HaMephorash written right here. That is blasphemy. This cannot be forgiven, you Christians. This is what you have done. This cannot be forgiven. Now, who is it that did this? That ruled over the Jews and made them to howl and blasphemed his name. The Roman Euro Christians did this. Says Jehovah, and my name is continually every day blasphemed. Therefore, my people are going to know my name because the Gentiles blasphemed the Shem HaMaphorish, the Tetragrammaton, his name. Because the Gentiles did this, my people are going to know. Are you one of his people? Are you going to learn his name? He says, my people are going to know my name. And they will know on that day when I speak. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that brings good tidings. That's the gospel. That publishes peace for Jerusalem. That brings tidings of good, that publishes salvation. In Hebrew, publishes Yeshua. The name of the Messiah is Yehoshua. Why? Because it has the name Jehovah and Yeshua in it. Who says unto Zion, Elohim rules. Or, yes, as Malach. All right? Now you know. If you can't get around it, you cannot spiritualize Israel. You see what the Gentiles did to the Jews. They blasphemed the name of Jehovah so that they could put their corkscrews into the hearts and minds of the Jews in such a malicious and demonic way. And they think that they're not going to reap the reward of it? Let me tell you what Jehovah is going to do. He says, your watchmen shall lift up the voice, and with the voice together they shall sing, for they will once again see eye to eye, when Jehovah shall bring back Zion. Break forth into joy, sing together, you waste places of Jerusalem, for Jehovah has comforted his people. You know, the ones that the Gentile Christians mocked and ridiculed for the last nearly 2,000 years. Those people. And he has redeemed Jerusalem, and he, Jehovah, will make bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the Gentiles, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our Elohim. What is that? What is that salvation? Depart you, get out from there, from among the Gentiles, and do not touch any unclean thing. Go out from the midst of her, and be you clean that bear the vessels of Jehovah. And you will not go out with haste, neither will you be in a hurry. For Jehovah will go before you, and the Elohim of Israel will remove you. He's going to, not your reward, he's going to gather you. He is going to remove you. Now, through his servant, my servant will deal prudently, and he will be exalted high and extolled and be very high. You know, the one whose visage was so marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. He will sprinkle many nations, and the kings will shut their mouth at him, because they are going to be, when he exacts the vengeance of Jehovah, they're going to be frightened of him. To recount, to see, to hear, to consider. Well, to discern, to consider. I think that's enough, folks. But there are many, many more chapters like this. So, Paul said he did not take money so that he would not harm the gospel. This is the gospel, folks. Learn it and love it.